Welcome, everybody, and thank you all so much for taking the time today to talk about the creation of the song Stars on the Ceiling. Before we really dive in, I just want to go around and give a quick intro for everybody at home who might not know you guys. First up, coming to us live from Nashville, Tennessee, we have Kipp Wilde, who was a co-writer on the song.
All right.
Following that,
hey everybody, good to be here.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Following that, coming to us from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we have Mark Schneider, aka Schmarx. He both produced and co-wrote the song as well. So welcome, Schmarx. Thank you so much for taking the time.
All right. Yeah, man.
Hey, Schmarx.
Next up, this man lent his beautiful vocals for Stars on the Ceiling. We got Scott Avett of the Avett Brothers. Scott, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're on the road right now. Where are you joining us from?
Port Chester, New York, at the Capitol Theater.
A little bit away from North Carolina, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah. It's
Next up, a man who both was on keys and guitar. Legendary rock musician from the band Greta Van Fleet. We have Sam Kiszka. Welcome, Sam.
Hello.
And last but not least, we have Stealing Oceans. All right, Brian. So, I'd like to start with you. Can you take us back to the beginning and how did the song Stars on the Ceiling, originally get started?
Well, first of all, you gave everyone such an epic introduction, and I was just like a matter-of-fact guest. I appreciate that, Big Al. Love it.
Well, listen, I was excited to see everybody else. I guess that's all I got to say.
Yeah, you see me all the time. You're sick of my face. I get it. Yeah, man. So the where the song started, I guess it goes back. Schmarx and Savvy and I have been working together for Schmarx. I want to say it's been close to like 10 years now that since we wrote our first song, like maybe 2012 or 2013. And
Yeah.
So back in 2018, I was playing with a band called Mutual Groove that consists of Ryan Swihart on sax, Pat Graves on bass, David Martin on drums, and Sam Woods on guitar. And then Kipp played keys with us. He blessed us with the keys. I was a huge fan of Kipp's band, Windsor Drive, for a long time. And I took the chance to ask him to play with us. And he actually said yes, which I didn't expect that. So I love you for that, Kipp. And we were out in LA and we went to Schmarx and Savvy's studio for like a week to work on some tunes. And one day Kipp brought in this idea on the keys and we all just fell in love with it. And from there, we just started diving in, the whole crew. And I don't know. I feel like Kipp can probably give more on the background of where that idea came from. But the whole crew, came together that day and made the demo, and we fell in love with it.
Yeah, no, that's actually a perfect lead. And so again, real quick though. So Schmarx, you had Savvy there, Kipp, Brian, you guys were all together the first day of the demo. So Scott, kind of just bear with us for a second. And
all good.
And we're going to set the early groundwork right here. So, Kipp, can you tell us about that first night and kind of how you originally came up with the idea?
Yeah. For me, I always come up with some kind of chord progression on the keys. And so I think I probably had like a Benny and the Jets vibe going on in my head. And so it kind of inspired this kind of stabby like keys part. And so I was just jamming out on this little progression. I remember Schmarx he had like this drum pad and he started like jamming along with me. I don't know if he remembers that, but we got this little groove going. Yeah, we got this little groove going and it felt really cool. And, from there on, we just kind of gradually developed this whole vibe of a song and the other guys came in and Pat and Sam and Dave and just started adding their parts. And it came together quite nicely. Like it felt supernatural and it just came through naturally. And and it was, we developed it later on that night. We started coming up with a lyrical, concept. And I don't know where it came from, but I started working on.
Seriously.
It's bizarre, but I don't know. I had this kind of playful idea of like a kind of a love song type of thing, and so I was working on it. I remember Savvy had an awesome idea of kind of making the lyrics like more of a double time thing against that groove. It was more of a halftime deal, and I thought that was cool. And so from there on, I started developing the lyric, and it came out. Yeah, it came out rather quickly. And I remember some of those lines were just kind of a joke, and I threw them out there. I'm like, this is kind of silly, but everybody liked it, so we just stuck
I remember that.
So, yeah. No, keep it. I'm like, all right, cool. So it just went from there, and then I just remember we started layering all the background vocals and all that stuff, and it was a lot of fun.
I think that's a perfect lead into Schmarx now. So Schmarx, I mean, you obviously produced the song. You've produced a lot of different songs over the years. Can you kind of tell me about your vibe that night, and then the progression of the song from where that demo was created to where it stands now, and kind of your inspirations and how we got there?
Absolutely. I mean, that day kind of felt a little bit, it felt special just because I feel like you guys had just flown in from Nashville either the night before or that morning. So everyone was just like super hyped to be together. It was probably the first time in maybe 2 years, all of us, like all 6, 7, 8 of us had been together to create at the same time. Because usually when we do sessions, Brian, it's like there's like 3 or 4 of us typically.
Yeah.
And this was like we had like 8 people in the room together. Everyone had their battle stations. Everything was plugged in, ready to go. And we started early in the day. I think we like got some lunch or walked around Hollywood, kind of got in the mindset, enjoyed the sunshine, typical writing day. And then we kind of moseyed into the studio. And like Kipp said, he just kind of was inspired, got behind the keys. And I mean, my job in that situation was just to be a vessel to help everyone translate their ideas, get it recorded, keep the flow going, no hiccups. When you have a lot of creative minds, it can get a little distracting, a lot of bouncing, a lot of goofing around, which is awesome. That's what you want. You want that vibe. But, I kind of felt like I had to be sort of the captain of the ship sometimes, be like, no, that was a great idea. Reel that in. Let's kind of like focus on that. So I was just there hanging out with my friends and just trying to do my best to just, keep the flow going. I knew it was the first of 8 days. So it was like, I knew we were going to be in this thing for a long time. So it's just like, a balancing act. Everyone's super excited, but you don't want to like overdo it too quick. So it was kind of just, keeping the energy going. And like Kipp said, things just kind of, when you have all those guys together, everything just sort of stacked. At one point, Brian, Savvy, Kipp were kind of writing lyrics on the couch. Me and Sam and Pat and Dave were working on the music at the same time. So they were kind of getting inspired, listening to what we were coming up with. And then, one of them would go, whatever, do something. And then Kipp would jump in and be like, I'm hearing these strings, and kind of jump in. And I mean, one time I do remember Ryan, sax player, and we got him I had like a vocal booth that was really just like a staircase. It was like Harry Potter's, like where he lived kind of thing, but it was just enough for like a vocal booth. And I just remember Ryan was wailing on the saxophone so loud that all of the neighbors were like, what, is there like a band going on? Like, because it was just the same sax line over and over and over again. We stacked like 30 of them up to try to get like a whole piece. But I mean, just so many good memories like that of this song that kind of just, came to be what the finished product came to be. I mean, it was a couple years of a process, and that was like the beginning. It was just crazy how, and Scott probably knows this, it's like sometimes you get together and like 80% of the song is done in such a short amount of time, But then it's that last 20% trying to get it over the finish line, to perfect it, to make it imperfect, whatever you need to do, usually takes a lot longer. But yeah, that's pretty much
that's awesome. No, that's fantastic.
Story on that one. Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, all right. So Brian, real quick though, I mean, you also put in some, wrote some interesting lyrics, like bouncing incense off girls' bodies and different things like that. What was the inspiration, behind some of these lyrics?
They are a little out there. I don't know, man. I think, all of us in the Zoom can agree, and I'm sure even anyone who watches this can agree that music, it brings a nostalgia a lot of the time, and it can connect to certain memories. And I didn't start writing my verses until the band had a lot of the music tracked, and then Kipp and Schmarx and Savvy really started digging into the chorus lyrics. And I don't know, something about like laying down and watching the stars on the ceiling, it immediately brought me back to college. The first time I did acid, I was in my dorm room with my girlfriend at the time. And man, we just got lost for like 7 hours playing with incense, and just created this whole dream world around us. And that whole idea of, sitting there laying and looking at the stars on the ceiling, it really brought me back to that moment. And yeah, I know I don't want to be a bad influence on any kids watching this. I don't condone doing drugs necessarily, but this was 12 years ago. And, I was in that college, just dreamy phase, and the lyrics and the feel of the song, the keys parts, the strings that Kipp added on, it just really brought me back to that moment. And so it was pretty easy to kind of just throw all that stuff on paper. And it was different too, because it wasn't like a lot of the tunes that, I worked on with Schmarx and Savvy and Kipp before were a lot more, pop driven, and my flows were, more in the hip hop realm. And this became more of like a spoken word experience thing, which I had never done before, but it felt good. It felt really good. And we ended up keeping the same vocals from that day that we worked on.
Oh, that's amazing. And just to get this clear, right? So, I mean, you guys, although you were together, Schmarx, you said for like 8 days, you guys had the demo for this song pretty much done in one day. Is that correct?
I would say that's correct. I mean, we got most of it just in the moment, being inspired, just tracking everything. I mean, when things are grooving, it happens fast. And I think we all can agree with that. So it was probably at the end of the night, we probably had 70% of everything in the session. Now, over the course of the next 2 years, we replaced drums, we replaced guitars and things like that. But the bulk of it, I would say most of it got done that first day. Cause then, it was like the next day we were already writing the next song and the next song and the next song.
Totally. But you guys wrote a bunch of songs at the time. Was the vibe, does that stand, you said the vibe was different that night. Did that stand out to you out of all those different sessions you had, that one session? Is that a standout session?
For me, absolutely. I mean, the energy on that one was just, sometimes you really have to work to write something, and other times it's like it was already written. And this one kind of fell on that ladder where it felt like it was already in the ether somewhere, and we just had to like kind of focus, find it, and then translate it.
I love it.
Yeah, it was magic when everyone was in the room. Yeah, Kipp came with that first keys idea, and I just remember seeing everyone just kind of and then, Pat, Schmark started messing around with the drums, then we got Patty on the bass, and it just felt so good at the time.
It's amazing. All right, so Scott, let me get to you right now. So, I mean, how did you end up, connecting with Brian and these guys? And then, this is kind of out of your, I would say, I don't know, normal realm of genre of music. What were your thoughts on the demo before you actually hopped onto it? And then, what did you think of the finished product?
Well, when I first heard it, I thought it was crap. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Damn.
No.
You just broke everyone's heart.
No, look, No way, man. No, I thought it was awesome. And I thought when I first heard the voice of whoever sang it first, I was like,
That was Kipp.
why would you need to replace? Yeah, I was like, why would you want to replace this? This is so good. Like it's like
You
so
killed it, man.
good,
You killed it.
so smooth. Kid, it sounded so good. I was like, oh
thanks,
my
man.
God, man. So I got to make sure I don't try to do that. I could just do my version of that and try to imitate you best I could. But to me, like it's amazing listening to you guys talk about the camaraderie and the brotherhood in it, because it sounds like a big communal event, and that's a testament to this being about our connection. And at first glance, at first move, like this was about me knowing Brian and loving Brian, and in turn loving what Brian is and who he's around, and in addition to that, because it just has to happen that way. And meeting Brian and his group of guys, were any of you guys with him when he was touring around? I guess we met in Texas, right, Brian?
Yeah, Kipp and Schmarx were both there.
We're both there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
when we stormed the meet and greet.
yeah,
That's
so,
right.
That
with the golf cart.
Y'all came in the meet and greet, and I was like, something was said about one of our shows one time about it being it was at the Greek Theater in LA, and a friend of mine said it's like it was an assault on cynicism, right? And I was like, well, that's just a nice way of saying it was super uncool, because everything that's cool is super cold and cynical, right? Like that's how it goes. And I remember meeting all you guys and thinking, I was just like, just for a second, I was like, okay, these guys are just crashing this thing. They're just messing around. I was like, okay, all right, bye guys. I'm like, I'm one of you guys. I know what this is. I'm a fellow, dude. All right. But the sincerity didn't stop, the sincerity didn't stop. There was no cynicism to it. It was straight up. And that is like a vulnerability and a meeting point that you can't beat. So that was that is the starting point. What a song is about, what it sounds like, what's happening. Who am I to know whether it's good or bad anyway? If Brian's bringing it, it's got to have a good place. If you get in turn, if you guys are bringing it, it has to have a good point that it's coming from. Icing on the cake is that it's well written and well executed, and the whole thing, like there it is. So to be pulled into it was just like a no-brainer, and it gave me an opportunity, Kipp, to sing with like you're just saying music brings on nostalgia. I thought, like I often do, opposite, because that's true, but nostalgia brings on music too. And for me, a lot of times everything's spoken word, everything's poetry, and music is nothing but a tool to lift that or to push that or to help move that. It's a vehicle. And then what I'm saying turns to a lie quickly, and music's all about music. So I ride both ways. But in this, it was such an opportunity for me to sing and dial in. And at the time, everybody, I guess, we're doing a lot of singing in the studio by ourselves, so at the time I'm really dialing in and thinking about singing. Like I'm kind of back to my live mode out here, where it's just like grip it and rip it, and sometimes pitch and all that finesse gets gone. But to be pulled into that is really, really a gift, a blessing to me. So that was an incredible opportunity for me in that way, and to work with you guys, man. So it was not crap. It was incredible.
That's absolutely amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So Sam, don't worry, I didn't forget about you. So obviously, you played both the keys and guitar for Stars on the Ceiling. And if I'm not mistaken, you don't normally play guitar for Greta. Was this one of your first tracked guitar solos on a release track?
It is, yes. This is the first time that I guess this is my electric guitar debut, if you will. Because what we were planning on was me kind of ripping an organ solo on there, but then I started parting things out, and I thought, okay, well, this solo thing that I did on organ actually sounded better as like a like a part. So then we kept that in there, and then I did more of a freestyle kind of guitar solo over it. But yeah, first guitar on a legitimate track.
And then kind of where did you pull your inspiration from for both the guitar and the keys part?
Well, you know what's really interesting is that this is a tricky one for me because I haven't ever really delved into the world of kind of the R&B feel, because we're rock and rollers, but this is kind of like a, so I was like not sure exactly how you're supposed to play over top of that. So I just kind of spitballed some things, and some things kind of stuck. And yeah, it was stylistically very different. So it was a good challenge to see what I would do melodically in a situation and rhythmically in a situation like that.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible. So that's the making right there of the song Stars on the Ceiling. So Brian, can you kind of tell us, how did we end up sitting here now, all of us talking? There's a finished beer available in all Total Wines. Everybody obviously listening now is drinking this. How did we end up here now?
It took a whole squad. Everyone on this call, Schmarx, Scott, Kipp, and then Mutual Groove, Sam, Pat, David, Ryan, they were all part of it. And then, later on we tracked Sean Bennett on drums, and his engineer for that was Jesse Field up in Seattle. And then, the legend Edan, who, I even have Mac Miller painting behind me. Edan, produced and engineered pretty much all Mac's work, and he did the mixing for this track, which was a dream come true for me in itself. And then, Chris Athens mastered it. Johnny Quixotes did the artwork. Schmarx, am I missing anyone here?
I think you've hit everybody.
Oh, Savvy. I was Savvy.
Well, and Savvy.
Yeah, Savvy. We've talked about her already, but
Songwriting.
me, Schmarx, and Savvy have been, writing tunes together for 10 years. Probably 96% of my catalog is written with those two and produced by Schmarx, because it's just that, what Scott was talking about, that energy and that camaraderie that we've had is just, it's magical, and we've never steered away from it. And so yeah, it took a whole crew. And I potentially would say I'm probably the least talented of this whole crew, but my talent is bringing community together, and I love just having a bunch of people in that energy vibe up, because I live off of energy, and I live off of community and love. And this whole crew, we felt that from the beginning. That day when Kipp started the track, the vibe just kept going like this. And for any musicians listening to this, like that when you have that moment and it just keeps going, and everyone, it's hard to get 7, 8 of us in a room to like continue to go up like this in vibe and energy in an 8-hour session, and we did. And I think that's the one of the big pieces of magic behind the song. And then from there, today's music, I was on a label for a while, and then I left them, and I kind of got sick of the regular process of releasing a song and then doing playlisting. And, they had this whole, roadmap of how to, get a song out. And I was like, man, I don't want to do that, because it just seemed disingenuous in a lot of ways. And so I wanted to tell the story. I think the most important part of music is telling the story of a song and continuing to tell that story. And that's the magic of it. And so I wanted to, do that in an alternative way. And right around the time where we were finishing up the track, I had come across this article about this thing called the Brussels Beer Project, where basically, in short, this scientist took this English rock band's music, and he did 3 different experiments. He gave people a beer without a label to drink and, asked them about their experience. Then he gave a beer with a label that basically matched the visuals of the song. And then the third group was the beer with the label, and then the actual song that he based the beer off of. And I read that, and it blew my mind. And it proved that, the listening to drinking a beer while listening to music totally changes like the sonic landscape and complements it. And so I saw that, and I was like, oh shit, man, like we should do something like that. And we had started, Alec and I started Lobster and Beer. And so we had a connection with Shipyard, and I asked them if we could do it, and they were down with it. And so we created this whole experience where, you scan the QR code on the beer and you get to listen to the song while you drink the beer. And we spent like a month or two just finding flavors. We tested out like 7 different flavors. And this blueberry ale, which actually, Schmarx, you should hop in here real quick, because the artwork that Johnny Quixote did was inspired by Schmarx bringing the color palette. Because Schmarx, you have this like rare, I don't even know if it's a condition. It's called synesthesia. Can you explain it like a little bit? Because it blows my mind how this works for you.
I don't even know if I officially have that, like Pharrell or whatever, I don't know. I just always can put moods and colors to sounds. I think that's probably why I started doing like production and stuff, because I just wanted to do like soundscapes and things like that. And I would just associate certain instruments and sounds with colors. And, as I got older and stuff, it's just like hearing songs and then being like, oh, I hear green and magenta and blue and yellow when that part comes in. And then it's just fun to like make a little package of your own music with like a brand, but really just colors that you feel that emote the emotions that you're getting from the song, the sound. So I guess we did that with this one. I forgot, but that's cool.
Well, because I asked you every time we do a song together, I'm always like, Schmizzy, like, what colors are you seeing? And you kind of gave like a which was very made sense for the song. You were like Starry Nights by Van Gogh was kind of one of your, and then I remember you sent me this like really trippy Winnie the Pooh version of Starry Nights.
Starry Night. Oh I do.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah. So then we gave that to Johnny. And then when we were testing with Shipyard, we landed on this blueberry ale that like really felt like, because Shipyard too, they were incredible to work with. And one of the guys we talked with there was like, hey, you should really do an IPA because that's the beer that sells most. And I was like, this is less about selling beer and more about really creating, like honing in on this experience. Like when you drink the beer and listen to the song, it gives you this certain feel. And so when I was like, man, I think the blueberry ale is the move, they were like, it's probably not going to sell. I was like, it doesn't matter. Like this is literally about, you listen to the song and the blueberry, matches the color and it really brings out the emotion of it. And so, just super grateful that it all kind of came together. A lot of these things, we dream big and, usually like, the saying, shoot for the moon, land on a star. And a lot of these things, you dream it, but it doesn't happen. But this one actually did happen. I'm just super grateful for all of you guys for being a part of this, and Shipyard and, Mutual Groove, the whole squad. It's been a dream come true, man, for this to happen. I'm very grateful. I love you dudes.
Love you too, man.
Same, man. Same.
Super cool. Yeah, it's crazy that this happened kind of like we wrote this song like years ago, and I never knew if anything would come from it. And so it's super cool that it was brought back to life. And then we also get a beer out of it. So that's
amazing. What a cool thing. Like talking about the colors with sounds is a little bit more common, but like expanding that to all of the senses, like tasting some, like you smell cut grass and it reminds you of your childhood or something like that.
Yeah.
And then combining that with music and taste. I mean, I feel like that's such a cool, I don't know, trip to the metaverse, but really all of your senses. Like it's just a really unique and special situation with this song. So thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, thank you all so much for taking the time today to come together and talk about all your different perspectives on the song and the experience. We hope everybody at home, they're obviously enjoying a delicious Stars right now. Don't forget, go grab another one after this, baby, maybe 2, available at all local or Total Wines. And I hope you guys have an amazing day, everybody. And thank you all so much.
Beautiful.
Love you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Much
you
love.
so much.